Good morning, Vande Matram. Welcome all of you. So this morning we are going to discuss on Yogadhara Part 2, Basis of Yoga Part 2. Here specifically we will discuss consecration, surrender and service. So this is the most auspicious occasion for us. Almost it is a glorious occasion. We are going to discuss on consecration, self-giving, surrender and of course service. So this is the topic of discussion, Yogadhara Part 2. Exclusively we will find the basis of Yoga Part 2. Here we are going to start with the mother, then we will go for Sri Aurobindo. Initially already we have discussed Yogadhara Part 1. Here we are going to take we are taking to have a glimpse on of course self surrender, self giving, then self giving, then consecration, sacrifice, surrender. This will be the topic of discussion for right now. Here mother course, when all our thoughts become turn towards the divine, when all our thoughts turn towards the divine, and of course entire being gets surrendered to the divine, then only we can find all the beautiful, all entire material, everything, how beautiful, how miraculous, how simple, and of course how much peaceful. Only the condition we have to see in everything, that the beauty will be there, miracle will be there, simplicity will be there, peace will be there. Only the condition is that all our thoughts must turn towards the divine, and the second, the entire being must be consecrated at the divine. So this is the condition, and of course we know this is the thing. Again, when we talk of the surrender, then where shall we surrender? How shall we surrender? And the person or the being where really we are surrendering, how it is. So your mother course, you have to surrender with near somebody who is a greater being than you. Greater being means there is a confusion, of course, inside us. Then how he will be greater? Suppose I am a graduate, he is a postgraduate. Then likely I am going to surrender? No, no, no. Then mother quotes, he must be the best creator, the divine presence and the infinity truth. With that only the man, the actually the being, the divine, this is entirely, and all these things are contented in divine, is nobody of none but the divine. There itself actually we get surrendered. So again, of course mother quotes, you just offer yourself entirely near the divine. Entire your all your problems, all your sufferings, all your pains must be ended. Definitely there is no problem in it. Once you are consecrated entirely, integrally, then all your entire problems, entire suffering, everything will pass off. Then again, you just your personality, you try to reject your personality, and anything, renounce your personality, try to that is the best way to discover yourself. That's what's your mother course. And of course we pray in many ways. All sincere prayers are granted. We know a prayer, a master act, a king idea can link man's strength to the supreme. Then what is that prayer? Mother course, self consecration. That is the best prayer and true prayer. Actually mother fields and mother course, there are of course three bases. We can of course we can sacrifice, we can of course consecrate ourselves. Number one, with all the politeness, all the humbleness and humility. So you have to renounce yourself regarding ego. That must go. Second, you must actually open yourself integrally near the divine. And the third condition, so you just take shelter within his arms. And of course you get yourself mixed, you get yourself entirely you try to lose yourself entirely in with all the love and the ardent, unshakable faith. These are the three conditions you have to satisfy and you have to give yourself. Again, if these things, conditions are satisfied, then actually you will get three formulas. That three formulas must be remembered by heart. Number one, that with that prayer, let thy will be done, not mine. Second, as thou willst, as thou willst do like this, I am here just to try to play, train me, try to prepare me. Again, up to the time eternal, eternal moment, I was yours, I am yours, I will be yours till the time eternal. So these are the three things you must be accept, you must accept. That humility must be there, that attitude must be there, that mentality is there, must be there, and of course that consecration must be there with you. Again, you do one thing, whatever your thoughts, and second, through your heart, with your heart, you just try to consecrate your feelings. With your body, you try to consecrate your work. With all your thoughts, you try to give, with the thought process, you try to give your thoughts. These are the conditions and requirement. Again, Mother finally quotes, above all the words, above all the thoughts, there must be an ardent aspiration with luminous faith and, of course, that deeper silence. With this only, you try to give yourself completely to the divine, and after you consecrate yourself entirely with almost all the sake, all the faith, and of course all the good mentality. So everything your being, your thought, your action, everything will belong to the divine, and almost divine will prepare you for a greater destiny and for the greater upliftment, for the evolution. That is what the process. Now we are going to read few lines on consecration from Sri Aurobindo. Very interesting four messages are there on consecration here in the quotes. Consecration is a process by which one trains the consciousness to give itself to the divine. Consecration is a process by which one trains the consciousness to give itself to the divine. Again, he who seeks the divine must consecrate himself to God and to God only. Only the consecration, that is the way, only way, and the consecration to the divine, and only to the divine, and who will do is those he who seeks the divine. Again, number three, each work should be offered to the mother. After the divine and all, as Mother Sri Aurobindo quotes, each work should be offered to the mother so as to keep the attitude a living one all the time. Everything, all the work, each work must be offered to the mother so as to keep the attitude a living one all the time. Then finally, Sri Aurobindo quotes, in proportion as the surrender and self-consecration progress, in proportionately, the sadhak becomes conscious of the divine Shakti doing the sadhana. So, more you give yourself, more you consecrate, more you surrender, that you will be capable of knowing that the divine is doing the sadhana inside the sadhaka, and in that proportion only. Again, we are going to know and discuss anything, few lines on service. So we know already, service to mankind is a service to God. That is the common proverb. That's what you use and you talk ever on. Again, we know the when we that the purpose of life, really the object of life, the aim of life, to discover the divine and to serve the divine. Here we are here on the earth to serve the divine wholeheartedly, integrally, everything. That is the object of our yoga. And moreover, I don't know how we are successfully what and how we are doing. But thing is that it must be done. There is no other goal. And still, mother course, there is no greater ananda than serving the divine. Only to the serving divine, that is a great aspect and a great hidden ananda in serving the divine. The thing is that how to serve, and that is not the that must not be the mental attitude. Rather, this is the attitude when and how the divine really wants us to do. So we must come as a loving child and instrument, so that will be prepared by its own hands. So whatever, then mother quotes, whatever you do in life, do it as a divine service. And that is the most initial, and almost it is the requirement. Whatever you are, whatever you think or feel, everything must be responsibly devoted and consecrated and served to the divine. That must be there. Your he is the only lord of your entire being and your life. If with all sincerity and fully you surrender, then he will take care of you, and you will find peace, and you will be that all this suffering and the pain, that will go. Again, everything belongs to this entire human ignorant human world, and all everything is almost surrounded with ignorance. The purpose is for that only. With that ignorance, with that inconscience only, this suffering and this confusion, this fixation is actually coming. So here we will try to quote little bit on from the Sri Aurobindo on service, servant, and of course servitude. Few lines we will quote here. Was Sri Aurobindo initially service, love and serve the man. Savitri also Sri Aurobindo quotes, service to mankind is service to God. But in the negation, Sri Aurobindo has quoted that what is the real purpose behind our service? He serves the world that him the world may serve. World may serve. That is the purpose for which actually he is trying to serve the divine. Mother Sri Aurobindo quotes here: love and serve men, but be aware lest you desire their approbation. Obey rather God within you thee. Obey the God that is actually concealed, hidden inside you. Again, the second term comes, that is servitude. Servitude is the law of love. Very interesting. Top lines here comes here of Indo. Servitude is the law of love in the being, and voluntarily giving itself to serve the play of the its other selves in the multiplicity. So the term comes, one he was one, he became multiple. Multiplicity of his the divinity, that has been created. He is many, who was the silent one. So servitude is the law of love in the being voluntarily giving itself to serve the play, of the other selves in the multiplicity. Again, we know, actually, there is a choice between being a servant or being a slave. So Sri Aurobindo quotes, normally we don't want to become either a slave or either a servant or a slave. But sometimes Sri Aurobindo quotes, God's servant is something, but his slave is greater. Again, if we have become that slavery, initially we can pass back into some hundreds of years back when slave market was existing. Like this it was there. And the Sri Aurobindo quotes, be only the serve to the divine, and not even to his highest and the most luminous angel. Again, we see servant of God. That is the another term finally, and consequently comes servant of God. The servant of God was born in Judea, and but he came to naturally among the Arabs. So that was a very much fluctuation, and of course there was a change in this attitude of these two varieties of the people. Again, about the Indian Sri Aurobindo quotes, India's joy is the servant lover. India's joy is the servant lover. Already we know, mother has already quoted initially. We have seen in different aspects, in different way. We have seen here. Sri Aurobindo has quoted. See, mother has quoted. While comparing the east and the west, initially will come from down, from top down. So east people, people something like including us, we have got a very aptitude, very interesting tendency of surrendering entirely, wholeheartedly, integrally. But thing is that so far these Westerners are concerned, they can do the offering, they can bend, they can make the Sastanga Pranam and all. So mother quotes better in part of the Easterners, and so far Westerners are concerned, mother quotes, I give advice that they must go and they must go deep inside. They must discover their soul. With the soul they must try to proceed the tapasya. That is very difficult one, and of course it depends upon the efficacy. So there is no other go than to surrender. But again, when we go for this another term, mother course, Odisha first, because the mother has compared the Odisha people with the Bengal. Bengal is okay, they are intellectuals and all, but actually, so far surrender is concerned, self consecration is concerned. When to give oneself is concerned, Odia people and Odisha is always at the top. Again, we'll go for that big term, that is actually Samarpana, surrender. Your mother course, entire duty of your entire responsibility of your life must be offered to take the decision to offer the entire responsibility of your life with the divine. That is what surrender. So it is not nothing with the mentality or vitality or physicality or psychically, but entirely you have to go. Everything you have to go. So entirely, wholeheartedly, everything that surrender means and you have to give yourself in mind and vital and physical. Everything you have to give, and this surrender to give at the near the divine. Whatever you think, whatever you are, whatever you plan, whatever you want to be, everything, the every moment, each circumstance has to be offered by the near the divine. So that is what the requirement. This road is long, but self surrender makes it short. The road is difficult, but if you have got ardent faith, then it will be easier. Anyway, we will try to quote few lines, of course, from Sri Aurobindo's original writing. Sri Aurobindo, what Sri Aurobindo quotes on surrender. Few lines we'll see on surrender. If there is no surrender, there can be no transformation of the whole being. Straightforward. If there is no surrender, there will be no transformation of the whole being. It does not depend upon the Westerners and Easterners and Easterners and India and of course Eastern side, and Bengal versus Odisha. Odisha people and so far our devotees of the Sri Aurobindo and the Master are concerned. It does not depend, but Sri Aurobindo straightforward, Sri Aurobindo course. If there is no surrender, there can be no transformation. The core of surrender, inner surrender, is the trust and the confidence in the divine. That is what Sri Aurobindo tries to quote. The core of the surrender is really, it is a great thing Sri Aurobindo has quoted, that depends upon the faith, trust, and confidence in the divine. Surrender must necessarily be progressive. It is not a one-time thing. It has to concede. It has to move on. It has to. We have to give it the things wholeheartedly and integrally. So these are the requirements and all. And there is another term comes, that is the grace. Every behind all stands in one plane and one side, but the thing is, the grace is something different. Mother quotes, steer of the course, grace is not an invention; it is a spiritual experience. That's what we have already seen, we have already read, and we have already discussed in brief. So this for with this grace everything is possible. So Yogadhar, everything that we have to do, as long as the lower nature is active, the personal effort of the sadhaka remains necessary. That is what required. Man by his own effort can never become more than a man. That is also that counts a big thing. So we know, we go, and of course we remember. But the thing is that problem, it actually we go in different direction. Already we know with this grace, it is not an invention, it is a spiritual experience. Kru and the pack or kupa, you have to do and you have to get. Means you have to simply, you have to dig the earth, and so that you will get nothing like this. So it is a spiritual experience. Not an it is not you have nothing to discover, it is nothing to invent. Spirituality is just a spiritual experience. With this mother quotes really in a beautiful term. Already we have known from the Vedic and of course ancient philosophy. Pangulanghayatagiri mukam karoti bachalam. It is possible. With the grace, everything can be done. And you see, basis of yoga, when we remember, when we remind, when we pass through, when we of course recite them, and when we analyze, when we reason, things are there in one side, but thing is that it is you don't know. Ahitiki Krupa, you don't know. You can't expect anything can happen at any time. So with the grace, Pangu Langhayate Giri, Mokam Karoti Bachalam. So any one lame person also he can cross the entire mountain. And secondly, Mukam Korosi Bachelor on top dim who can say speak also he can recite like anything. So this is the Krupa divine grace it is there. If it is with there, naturally there is a success is inevitable. Vandana.